Welcome to the London Free Press podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Gilbert. All eyes were on London recently as the London Police Service announced they've reopened their investigation into an alleged sexual assault that happened between a woman and 5 men who were part of the 2018 World Junior Hockey team. So today I'm talking with London Free Press court reporter Jane Sims about what the criminal trial against these men may look like. Hi, Jane. How are you?
Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Well, let's kind of start with why police reopened this case because they did investigate it. The woman only identified as EM, reported this case shortly after it happened, like days after, back in 2018. Police investigated for a short time. They quit investigating for some reason, and now they've reopened it. So can you kind of explain, why they stopped investigating, why they reopened?
Well, we don't know the whole ins and outs of everything, right? We do know a complaint was made. And if we talk in generalities a bit about the investigation of sexual assaults and what happens and how police address them, there has to be good solid proof before you take it to trial, before you lay a charge. You got to have grounds. You've got to have enough grounds for it to go forward. Can't get into the heads of the people who made the decisions, not sure who they were.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what influenced it. It could be that there just was not, if I'd like to think, if I'm thinking purely, that there just wasn't enough evidence at that point that they thought they could take it forward.
Right.
We know what happened. There was a civil suit, and we see this, right? Because sometimes what happens in court is that if there isn't a satisfactory decision or a trial or anything regarding a cases like this, women can get can go to the civil courts. The standard of proof is different in the civil courts. It isn't beyond a reasonable doubt. It's balance of probabilities. So I think we've all been aware that there was a statement of claim. There were some pretty explosive allegations in that statement of claim. And if you ever read in the paper, you will see us do stories about lawsuits. We will say the statement of claim is not evidence. This has not been proven in court.
Okay.
In this case, Hockey Canada and those who were sued, they settled the case before it ever went to trial.
Right.
And for an undisclosed amount, that's standard in a lot of these cases. But once that was publicized that Hockey Canada had very quickly tried to put a lid on this of course raises a lot of questions about what the heck happened here, about hockey culture, about why wasn't anybody charged, and given the stakes on this and given this country's devotion to hockey and how we view hockey players, these guys get away with something?
Right.
I think that's a fair way of putting it.
Yep.
We saw a couple things happen. We saw that Hockey Canada cleaned house. There was an independent investigation by Hockey Canada into it. And they cleaned house and they did a bunch of stuff. But then last year, the London police went back and they went to the courts to get permission for production orders, for search warrants and stuff like that. And that could be cell phones, that could be a variety of things, right? And out of that came these charges against these 5 guys, 4 of them who were in the NHL, one who was now playing in Europe, former London Knight.
Right.
So that's where we're at right now. I want to be clear as a court reporter to be honorable to the system that it is. These guys they haven't been found guilty of anything. They are accused. They are innocent until proven guilty. However, I will say this, and I'm an old lady, and I've covered stuff like this for a long time. The media attention that has been put on these 5 guys has been extraordinary, and on this case, and it was certainly apparent on Monday when it was their first real court appearance, when the London courthouse, listen, it was crawling with reporters.
Yeah.
And it was also a Zoom call. We do those now for just basic court appearances. And if you looked up on the screen, there was Fox News, ESPN, New York Times, all kinds of media all over the place who are very interested in the stakes of this. All they saw were 5 lawyers. We didn't even see them on screen. 5 lawyers talking in the courtroom. We couldn't see them. I think they were on screen if I'd been at home. But the 5 lawyers putting the case over till the end of April, asking for disclosure. Disclosure is the evidence collected by the police and the Crown that must be disclosed to the lawyers. In Mr. Fermen's case in particular, his lawyer said, let's get going. We want this expedited, and we're anxious to see what you got.
Right. Okay. So none of the players showed up for Monday.
No, they didn't have to.
They didn't have to. That's very routine. It's
They
common
would
that
have
they wouldn't
turned
be there.
themselves into the London police. I
Right.
don't know if they would have done that through their lawyers, but they would have to do something. But after that, there's something called a designation that can be filed by a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
We see these all the time, and it just saves so much time. That it means that you don't that you designate your lawyer to appear on your behalf,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to show up. They handle all your business in court, so you don't have to come in to, just say, Ms. Gilbert, your case has been put over for 2 weeks, and you don't
Right.
have to pay for that. Your lawyer just does the paperwork.
Right. There is an extra charge. All five players are charged with one count of sexual assault. There is an extra charge against McLeod of sexual assault by being party to the offense. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I can't explain it absolutely, but
Okay.
with him facing an additional charge, it tells me that he has a little bit more to do with it. Maybe is that a fair
Okay.
way of putting it, or maybe
Sure.
he may be a key in this. I don't know for sure. Right
Right.
at this point, we know
That's the allegation anyway.
that's the allegation. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
All five are being tried together as well. We're not having five separate trials. They're all going to be tried together. Is that common? Why would they do that? And does that somehow affect the outcome at all? Like, if is there a jury involved, and do they decide? I have so many questions. Do they decide if, these three are guilty and these two aren't, for, hypothetically, how does that work, that all five are being tried together?
Well, it is one event, right? So in all
Okay.
five, it's kind of conspiracy is kind of a bad word to use, but it's kind of like that. Okay, they're all attached to the same event.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, they're all on the same set of court papers. They're all charged. They're co-charged, right? That doesn't mean that they're all going to go through together. Okay, over the next 2 years, and it will be 2 years. Okay, there's going to be an awful lot of discussion going on between these lawyers and the Crown,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows what could happen. We could have anything from, we could have guilty pleas, we could have peace bonds, we could have charges dropped, we could have all kinds of stuff could happen. Each person is dealt with individually but collectively at the same time, but collective.
Okay.
Okay, so uh, you see that happen. Like if you have a homicide and there's 4 people charged, there was one in East London not long ago where there were 4 people charged.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen those cases come through individually because there have been guilty pleas on some of them. 2 of them are
Okay.
going to trial. Now, I will say in a sexual assault case, what we see with sexual assaults is this. They are very, I would say probably they're the most difficult to prove in terms of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Mm-hmm.
We've watched during the pandemic, especially when there's been a backlog of cases, that the Crown worked very hard to move cases along, and there was a lot of plea bargains that went through. And in indictable offenses like this one, serious sexual assault, which will end up in the Superior Court of Justice. Okay, what I am seeing at the London courthouse is that the serious cases that are making their way to trial in the Superior Court have been homicides and sexual assaults, because sexual assault is difficult to prove.
Mm-hmm.
It's provable, and I've seen lots of them be proven, but it's
Sure.
in a lot of cases, especially in person-to-person sexual assaults, it's he said, she said, or she said, she said, or he said, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit different. We got 5 accused in this, but if I'm sure those defense lawyers it's an indictable offense, they're going to opt for a jury trial and take a shot.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Because if you're the defense, there's always a chance, right?
Always
That
a
they could be,
chance.
yeah, always a
Even
chance.
if I'm not guilty. Now, I don't know what this does to these guys now because they've been publicized pretty well, but
Right.
there's always a chance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Is Hockey Canada named in this case, or will it just be the five players?
Just the five players. I mean,
Okay,
they're individuals. Hockey Canada can't be charged with sexual assault. They've
sure.
already
Yes,
paid their price civilly, right?
they
So,
have. Yeah. So I have a question about the because this woman has settled an out of court settlement that we don't know the amount with Hockey Canada. Does that maybe bode well for her in this criminal trial?
well, they are tried separately, right? Those are two different. Those are two different bundles, right?
Okay.
There's a civil case over there, right? It's a
Yeah.
criminal case over here. So the criminal case has to be tried based on the facts and proof and only convictions when there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. Civil case has already been looked after. And that, that's been settled. That's not evidence. I don't think. I may be wrong.
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but
Sure.
I think they have to look at the allegations and exactly what happened and try to reconstruct what happened that night.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so Hockey Canada is not they Hockey Canada is not charged in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they've already they've already admitted civil liability.
Sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that lawsuit could be brought into this at all, but I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll
Yeah.
find out. Um,
Interestingly, too, if I interject,
yeah.
talking to one of the Hockey Night in Canada guys down at the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Strange place to meet Hockey Night in Canada guys, but anyway, what they were telling me is that the interest in this is so high that even at the All-Star game, Gary Bettman, the president of the league, spent 35 minutes of a news conference answering questions about this case, which is fascinating to me. I know these guys are NHL players, but the NHL was not involved in this.
Right.
So that tells you the kind of interest and everything that's going along with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite wild, really. Yeah.
You mentioned, because being at the courthouse, it was so busy and just kind of coming off the back of that. This has been a circus with, even the London police, when they had their press conference, they usually do it at the police station. They had to move it to RBC Place because of the media interest in this. If these guys were not hockey players, would we even care as much? It was certainly wouldn't get this much attention because, all the other organizations aren't involved. But would a case like this, get any as much attention or even half as much attention as this? What do you think?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends on the circumstances. I mean,
Sure.
five,
Yeah.
and that's a pretty major league.
Mm-hmm.
I would think the London police would want to tell community about and would want and you know. However, I will say this: if you look at a court docket every day, there's sexual assaults out of court docket every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it runs the gamut from maybe you know a touch to full blown sexual contact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but sexual assault is one of the most charged offenses around, as far as I'm concerned. And again, it's a lot of it is it's it's he said and she said, right?
Right.
So, and if a lot of these go to a jury because juries are unpredictable
Yeah.
in terms of these cases. Not always, but sometimes.
Do we know if this case will have a jury? Have we gotten to that point yet? Will
I
will
don't
there be a
think that
jury?
they haven't the defense lawyers are asked. This is called a hybrid offense, sexual assault, because it could be tried as a summary conviction offense in Ontario court, depending on the seriousness of it. Low end sexual assaults are tried in the Ontario court. Higher end would move up by indictment into the Superior Court, where you can have a jury. So lawyers are asked to make an election where they want the case tried. There's no election that's been made yet that I understand, but I will say this: I would be shocked if they haven't already. It'll be by jury, judge and jury in the Superior Court.
Right. The woman that's involved, we only know her as EM. Will she be protected if she is on the witness stand, if she has to speak in court? Um, we've heard of so many of major sexual assault cases involving celebrities or other high profile perpetrators, I guess, in the news. And the women involved or the women who have accused them get dragged through the mud. Um, what is this woman going to be protected? You know, because this is a circus for her already.
I, I think that's the part that makes my heart ache a little bit, right?
Yeah.
As a fellow woman,
Mm-hmm.
she has protections. Protections are protections on her identity and her, her sexual history cannot be brought into play, and that's part of the law, and that's what the
Okay.
law should, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's already protected by court order as terms of her identity. There are also, should she want this, she can testify remotely, meaning that it would be in the courthouse, but in another room. Okay, that she wouldn't have to be in the same room as her uh, as the people that she is accusing as a complainant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, however, I think I think what goes through my mind when I sort of picture this taking away everything else, and it is the fact that she is going to be put under the microscope if these guys all go to a jury trial by five lawyers, by five very good defense lawyers. And I'll be clear. I mean, the roster of lawyers is pretty high stakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know,
That's what I would expect in this case. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
and they have every right to have that,
Sure.
right?
Yep. Of course.
However, she is going to have to relive this thing.
Yeah.
She's going to have to 8 years. It'll be 8 years later, and she'll be being asked. I would suggest specifics about what happened that night, and it's it has potential. I'm sure she's. I hope she's a strong person, but it has potential to be pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Um, I've sat through sexual assault cases, and they're they're really hard. They're really hard, and I don't. I don't. I There's no way you want to be in this woman's shoes. What's coming?
No.
I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss about that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, we've had some people, some and organizations say that there can be, you know, a toxic culture of sexualized violence in the hockey world. The London Abused Women's Center did say that in a press release. Do you find that to be true, having covered so many court cases in general, but also sexual assault cases?
Well, I think the way I'd answer that is yeah, probably right. But there's a sexualized culture everywhere, and
Mhm.
you see it every day. And
Yep.
is there a culture within hockey? Yeah, probably. But like we've also seen cases I guess the the high profile cases I think of are mostly American, like the Harvey Weinsteins or what happened at Penn State with Jerry Sandusky, or
Mm-hmm.
what happened at Ohio State with the wrestling coach, or what happened in Michigan with the Michigan State with the team doctor and Larry Nasser.
Yep.
We've seen here. I mean, there was an investigation into gymnastics here in Canada. I covered a case in Sarnia where a guy was found not guilty. Um, I've covered cases in the past. It's mostly there's always sort of a power dynamic. It's usually like it might be coach and player or coach and I've seen that a couple of times. But is there, as I can say this as a hockey parent,
Mm-hmm.
I mean teams are close. Teams, to be a team, you have to have different components, and you all learn to do things together. And man, you put a whole bunch of guys together who have been told they're the greatest hockey players in the country, and I don't know. I hate thinking as a Canadian and as a mom that that this would be possible. But at the same time, am I surprised? Not really. And I don't think
Mm-hmm.
anyone really is surprised,
Yeah.
given
Yeah.
given how we
How
how
we
we
view these, yeah, we idolize them. Absolutely. Yeah.
operate.
Okay, so what is next? This has been put over until April, so we won't hear about this until April again. So what's the
Yeah.
next step come April?
Oh, all our friends who are going to descend on London again are going to be very, very disappointed.
Okay. All right.
Not much will happen. I can't see much
Okay.
happen. So what was said the other day is that I think the assistant crown attorney Heather Donker said a vast majority of the disclosure videos, auditory stuff, everything, the interviews was on its way that day. Okay, we now get into sort of this bit of a sort of the courthouse grind. The defense will be reviewing all of its disclosure. The Crown will be preparing its case. We will come back on April 30th. There will probably be, they'll talk about, more disclosure is going to be probably go to the defense, making that available.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll be a series of adjournments in the Ontario court. Like I said, there could be pleas, there could be charges dropped, there could be a preliminary hearing. Preliminary hearing might be waived. This will make its way eventually into the Superior Court. There are time limits put on cases. It's called the Jordan Rule, that from the Supreme Court of Canada. If a case stays in the Ontario Court of Justice, it's 18 months preferred. And if it gets to Superior Court, they want cases wrapped up within 30 months. It doesn't always happen, but there is, if you watch any kind of scheduling court, they will give a Jordan date. And the Jordan date is when this thing has to be wrapped up. Okay. So the clock is ticking now, but that clock will tick very slowly.
Okay.
Slow for now.
Yeah.
I don't see this making its way to the Superior Court for a couple of years.
Okay. It'll be a long process.
It's going to be long, and it's going to be long because there's a lot of accused and there's a lot of moving parts.
Lots
and it's
of people
high
involved.
Sure. It's high profile, right?
Yep. Nobody wants a misstep, obviously.
If we look at the Veltman trial, for example, okay, that we'll be through on the 22nd February. You think about that. It'll be done February 22nd, 2024. He murdered that family on June 6th, 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
And long time. Done. It takes a long time on high profile cases, but stay tuned. There may be things happen. We don't know. We'll see what happens.
Okay. We'll stay tuned. Thank you, Jane. We're going to definitely watch for your reporting on this because we know you'll have it from the London Courthouse, and we can watch your stories and read up on them at lfpress.com. Thank you so much.